As I was learning my way through Project Spark, a passerby told me that this looks like work, and it sort of is. It functions similarly to actual game engines, like Unreal or Unity. You know, like developers use for their actual jobs. It can be complicated, tedious, and frustrating at times, because this is a game about making games. It's a sandbox and a playground for your creativity, and it's relatively easy to jump in and start creating. It's also really, really hard to make something that isn't awful, but the satisfaction of overcoming that challenge makes something that's already smart and fun even more exciting. The part of Project Spark that's an actual game is an episodic single-player campaign. It's really just a demo to show you what's possible and how you can create useful and fun logic for characters and objects. It's a helpful first step, but it isn't enough to guide you to make something whole, and its 3D action game simplicity isn't terribly enjoyable on its own. But at any point, if you own all the objects that Project Spark sells piecemeal, you can stop playing and start editing right then and there to figure out how something operates. Everything in Project Spark has a brain, where you can modify how an object responds to something that happens to it. I'm a game design daydreamer with no formal training, so navigating complicated menus to create artificial intelligence behaviors is terrifying. Getting them to work can be really challenging. But it's interesting, satisfying, and really fun to design a space, populate it with NPCs, and see them respond to a player character with dialogue you wrote or a big event that you scripted. It feels good to make something. It feels better when somebody says that it's cool. That all of these tools are available completely for free is amazing. Project Spark's $40 starter set gives you tons of new props for visual variety, and the DLC packs have even more. But everything you need to make something is available completely for free. Understanding these systems takes time and effort, but Project Spark is reasonably accessible. Because Project Spark's tutorials only scratch the surface of what it can do, I relied heavily on YouTube users to tell me how to use a Boolean variable, or what an object vector means. Now these are core to the kinds of games I'm making with friends. And making games with friends is where Project Spark becomes something truly special. Cooperative design is easily the best thing about Project Spark. I enjoyed my time alone, tinkering with 2D platformers and 3D action games, but having someone else to help make your game design dreams come true is legitimately amazing. While my friend created an interactive sequence later in our 2D platformer level, I decorated a scene with lighting, visual effects, and props. He the designer, me the artist. In another game, I used Project Spark's flexible tools to create walls, paths, and visual cues. That's level design. Meanwhile, he was making a non-playable character respond to the player interactions using the Brain Editor's visual programming. We argued about what was best for the game versus what was best for the player. We solved problems together, and he cleaned up a lot of my messes. This isn't exactly like being on a development team, but like Rock Band is awesome for wannabe rock stars, Project Spark is a terrific approximation of what it might be like to work at a video game studio. But here, you actually create something that you can share, and doing it together is as good as Project Spark gets. It's still very early in its life, so right now most of what Project Spark's community has made is lacking in quality, to say the least. People are still learning what's possible though, and I found myself giving high ratings to games that accomplish novel new things rather than games I actually thought were good. There's potential here, even if most of the games are garbage Fable clones or straight up remakes of other games. But hey, imitating is a pretty good way to learn. To be fair, my games are simple, pointless, or too limited to be good either. I have not made anything I'm comfortable sharing publicly, and I'm not sure that I ever will. But what I have is a small collection of things representing my growth as a creator. I'm proud of what I've made, even though you'd probably hate it. If you spend time with Project Spark, you might appreciate my cool cave-in sequence, or the fixed camera angle right behind my main character. Maybe you'll just make something that you've always dreamed of. Project Spark is a time investment, but it's one that's worthwhile if you've ever wished to make games. Learning its obtuse and complicated systems is surprisingly enjoyable, because you'll see satisfying results instantly when you conquer a problem. So far, there aren't many games that I'd recommend playing on the Project Spark marketplace, but the engine itself is an enormous amount of fun to use. It's rich with possibility, primed for your creativity, and capable of bringing your imagination to life. For more on Project Spark, stay tuned to IGN.